Bob's Burgers has some of my favorite holiday episodes of any animated show, so given that my channel is partially horror focused, I figured I'd take a look at all of the Halloween episodes in the show and rank them from worst to best. Remember that this is completely subjective and is primarily based on my own tastes and preferences, so feel free to comment below whether you agree or disagree with my rankings. Starting at the bottom, we've got Tina Witch. It's a fairly forgettable episode on its own, and doesn't have a lot to do with Halloween. The main plot about Tina getting into witchcraft isn't pushed very far. She just annoys a crossing guard who puts a curse on her in return, and while the majority of the episode is entertaining enough to keep me watching, the ending is really underwhelming. Tina basically just apologizes to the crossing guard for being a jerk, and that's kind of it. Bob's side plot about his pumpkins going missing isn't anything to write home about either. It's basically just a worse version of the episode Turkey in a Can. I've never really been a fan of this episode, honestly. Definitely my least favorite Halloween episode, putting this one in D. Moving on to the next episode, we've got Fortnite. There isn't too much to say about this episode other than it showed off two great side characters, Daryl and Millie. The B-plot of Bob and Linda putting together the kids' Halloween costume isn't too eventful, so the plot about the kids kind of carries this episode. The kids find themselves trapped in the fort they built when they get stuck behind a garbage truck. Millie uses this as an opportunity to torture them for not including her. This honestly didn't really have to be a Halloween episode. Nothing about it really tries to be spooky or include the holiday in any meaningful way. Luckily, it's still pretty funny, or else it probably would have been more forgettable.
I'll never forget you, Andy.
I'll be with you every time you look in the mirror. What? 'Cause we look alike. Never mind.
Oh, no, I get it now.
I didn't want those to be my last words.
I might make people angry with this take, but I'm gonna put this in C. It's not a bad episode by any means, but it's not very memorable either. I've gotta say, I'm kind of disappointed by Big Trouble in Little Tina. It's passable like any Bob's Burgers episode, but I'm just not that big of a fan of either of the plots going on here. Tina trying to get over her fear and guilt over dissecting a pig was entertaining enough, and I did think that the ghostly pig character was pretty funny.
You gave in to peer pressure and made fun of me, and you felt really guilty about it, and this is what your brain did.
Ow. I know this part isn't a big deal at all, but it does irrationally annoy me that while this episode is partially a parody of A Nightmare on Elm Street, an episode that I'll cover later in the video is named after that movie, but not this one. I know it's a stupid complaint, but it just would have worked better. The subplot about Linda trying to get wax out of Bob's ear wasn't really funny, and I just thought it was gross, placing this one in C. Apple Gore-chard is decent. I appreciate that both of the plots tie into each other at least a little bit. Bob is chaperoning Louise on her field trip while Linda, Tina, and Jean are scrambling at the costume contest because they're missing a part of their group. The main problem with this episode is that it's just not that funny in my opinion. A lot of the humor boils down to bad references like Billie Eilish, and for some reason they thought it was really funny to constantly acknowledge how old the movie Twister is.
Plus, do you know how many 40-something-year-olds are gonna get this reference and go crazy for it?
While the plot about Louise thinking she's going to be sacrificed was fun and added to the Halloween feel, this episode as a whole just wasn't very funny, though I will say that it was nice seeing Louise have an actual friend who isn't one of her siblings. I always appreciate that the show actually lets their characters get some development. Unfortunately, this one's going in C. I don't really want to spend too much time on the pumpkining. I just don't have that much to say about this one. On its own, it's a solid episode, although the main plot about Linda and Gail trying to figure out who's been sending them creepy notes about how they ruined their high school pumpkin carving contest virtually had nothing to do with Halloween besides the pumpkins. I did think it was pretty funny though. Gail episodes are usually fun. Bob's subplot about him struggling to hand out candy kind of sucked. Nothing about it was very entertaining, and I would have rather them used that time to flesh out Linda and Gail's adventure. This one is going in B. Nightmare on Ocean Avenue Street is pretty good. It was fun seeing Teddy's handyman skills put to the test while he competed with the other handyman next door for who could make the best Halloween decorations. The main plot about the kids tracking down a candy thief was just fine, although the way that they animate him falling off his skateboard makes me laugh every time.
Wow, he's really good on that thing.
Ugh, that was tough to watch.
The reveal that Dr. Yap was the one stealing the candy to stop kids from ruining their teeth was in character and just as unhinged as you would expect from him. I also appreciated the sentimentality of the opposing handyman actually really looking up to Teddy. Bob's Burgers is always good with that kind of stuff.
Thanks, Teddy. I've always liked your work. Except we chainsawed everything.
That was Bob's idea.
This isn't a bad episode, nor is it one of the best, though I do have to give it points for being a solid Halloween episode, so I'm placing this one in B. Full Bars was their first attempt at a Halloween episode, and it's a solid start to their take on the yearly tradition. The A-plot is about the kids getting into some hijinks on King's Head Island in an attempt to get better candy, while the B-plot revolves around a murder mystery having to do with Teddy's dead guinea pig. If anything, the best thing that this episode does is shine a light on side characters, especially the adults at Teddy's party. Characters like Gretchen, Mike the mailman, Mort, and especially Teddy all have good moments throughout.
Teddy, let me try. I have good lungs.
Teddy in particular is a large proponent of this episode, showing early on that Teddy is deserving of more screen time. I loved how he just got crazier and crazier as the night went on.
Now let me speak. You don't tell me when to call 911!
The police aren't coming.
On King's Head, high schoolers hunt down trick-or-treaters and bully them, serving as a decent foil. They were pretty funny too. Full Bars isn't necessarily one of the best episodes, and I think future episodes utilize the Halloween theme a little better, but it certainly is a classic and is a solid episode as a whole.
Ooh, so close.
I'm putting Full Bars in A. This episode already gets bonus points for being named after and is sort of based on one of my favorite movies, Lars and the Real Girl. This episode mainly revolves around Tina falling for a supposed ghost that they've captured and put in a shoebox. Much like the movie it's named after, the supporting cast starts to befriend the fictional person. While the main plot serves as a sort of parody, the B plot has ghost hunters examine Bob's Burgers for evidence of the paranormal. Although it's pretty obvious that they don't really know what they're doing. Judging by the references throughout, somebody on the writing team must have been a really big Ryan Gosling fan. And honestly, same. The comedy throughout the whole episode is solid, and it has a good message about how we can learn things about ourselves and the world around us through anything, even if it's just a folktale or an empty shoebox. The ghost hunter side of the plot is entertaining enough, although I wish they went a little harder in making fun of scammy ghost hunters like these more. Instead, the two guys are just kind of boring. Luckily, it doesn't take up too much room, making for a solid Tina-focused episode. With a good message and solid comedy throughout, I'm putting Tina and the Real Ghost up there with Full Bars in A. The Hauntening is a great showcase of why we love the Belchers as a family. The family takes Louise to a DIY haunted house in an attempt to give her the fear she's always wanted to experience. It's a good setup that has a satisfying payoff when it's revealed that the family created the whole scary experience on top of the fake haunted house to truly scare Louise, giving her what she's wanted all along.
That's not scary! That's not scary!
Louise, sweetie, baby.
Oh, what is happening?
This shows how much the Belcher family really cares for each other, and even though they drive each other crazy at times, at the end of the day, they'll do whatever it takes to make everyone in the family happy, showing why the Belchers are so beloved compared to some other animated families. While it's not the funniest episode by any means, it does a good job of showcasing why we like these characters so much. It's just a fun episode in general. I always like it when these characters are taken out of their usual environment. The fake haunted house experience that Bob and Linda made was fun. It made for a good contrast when they upped the ante with a spookier atmosphere later on in the episode. I'm putting this one in A. For Whom the Doll Tows isn't a great Halloween episode, but I genuinely love it on its own. The super elaborate murder mystery that Louise creates with the dollhouse is very in character, and I thought it was hilarious when it was revealed that it was all just for the purpose of explaining to Gene why he wasn't invited to a Halloween party. I also liked that they brought back the substitute teacher from the season 13 episode, The Plague Before Christmas. It's fun when they bring back a character that you didn't think you'd ever see again. This episode has a really good message too. That being that you shouldn't worry about associating yourself with people if it means that you're going to compromise your morals. In this case, Gene defended his teacher from being made fun of, even though it meant that other kids would think he's lame. If it weren't for the fact that this episode doesn't really have Halloween vibes at all, it would definitely be an S. Although, I'm gonna have to put it in a respectable A. Heartbreak Hotel-oween is one of the better Halloween episodes in my opinion. It was really fun seeing the kids do another murder mystery to figure out how the husband of an older woman died. The woman in question thinks that he cheated on her and then died soon after, just for it to be revealed that he was faithful all along and died from an allergic reaction. It was really sweet seeing her realize her mistake and remembering the love that she had for her late husband after years of hating him. The side plot of Bob struggling to donate his blood was funny too.
Hey, mister, you saved my life and now I'm gonna go out and save the rainforest. You're doing a lot of voices.
It doesn't take up too much of the runtime either, leaving plenty of room for the main plot with the kids. They bring Halloween to the forefront of this episode too, making this one of their best Halloween episodes in my opinion. This one goes an S. Okay, so this one takes a little bit of explaining. Due to the writer's strike that was happening around the time that season 14 was under production, they weren't able to release a real Halloween episode, although Fraud of the Dead is arguably one of the more horror-themed episodes they've ever done. And if they did release it around Halloween, it would have fit perfectly, so that's why I'm including it in this list anyway. This episode is one of my recent favorites. It's consistently funny throughout.
And if anyone asks about the bite, we'll just say that you work in construction and it's a hazard of the job. He works in construction! It's a hazard of the job!
And they make a genuinely good use of the found footage style, without constantly relying on tropes or references to other found footage media. I'm honestly just really impressed that they committed to this style for an entire episode. I also appreciated that they made use of so many side characters. I think it's nice that everyone came together to help the kids make a movie. Even though it wasn't released around Halloween, I think it did it better than some of the actual Halloween episodes, and that's why it's earned its place in S tier. We've made it to the final episode of this video. The Wolf of Wharf Street is a personal favorite of mine. I love episodes where Bob just loses his mind. It's never not entertaining. Linda takes the kids to look for a supposed wolf that's on the loose after their trick-or-treating goes wrong, in an attempt to still entertain the kids, while Teddy takes care of Bob as he rests due to an injury. Although he's mostly watching over him because his pain meds make him a little loopy. I don't know what it is with Bob, but he seems to really like those pills. This episode brings back Randy, who's also looking for the wolf, trying to get footage of it, and failing. I appreciate that they gave this episode a spooky vibe throughout. Bob being super paranoid of Teddy being a werewolf due to his pain meds was great, and the adventure that the other characters go on was fun too. This episode was already consistently entertaining, but the ending is the cherry on top. After the reveal that the wolf the group was chasing after was actually an alpaca, Bob runs into the actual wolf, Mr. Fischoeder and Felix picking it up soon after.
There you are, Lulu, you naughty girl. You're gonna get Daddy in trouble escaping like that.
I told you weren't ready to have a wolf, Felix.
The Wolf of Wharf Street is a great episode all around with a solid conclusion. And even better, it makes great use of the Halloween theme. That's why it goes all the way up to the SS tier. And that's my ranking. Even though I don't think all of these necessarily worked as a Halloween episode, just know that even the ones that I scored lower, I still consider to be worth a watch. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my rankings. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!